Welcome in. Welcome all to another edition of Rogers Rules. We are live from the Pinnacle Bank Championship, the 8th annual event here at the club at Indian Creek. And there's no better person to break down this weekend than the one joining the show, Kevin Prise. He's an absolute savant of the Korn Ferry Tour. I mean, he does any and all from this level all the way up to the PGA, and he is out remote and safe as far as I'm told. Right, Kev?
We're safe for now here in Greensboro, North Carolina. Tropical Storm Debbie is approaching here at the Wyndham Championship for the PGA Tour.
Oh, I'm so glad that storm's named Debbie. That's my mom's name. So some grief to give her.
This is not a good thing. Cam, we are not uplifting this moment while Kev.
I mean, it's bad.
Is shaking in his
storms
boots.
are bad, but
out of North Carolina.
Out of my mama, so I got to give it some props.
We're safe. Got my coffee, Holiday Inn Express shout out. So yeah, we're good. We're hanging in there.
Hey, no free shout outs, Kevin. No free shout outs.
Exactly. Yep. Some sort of hotel with comp coffee.
Kev, you know, I miss you, man, because when you're here, things are loosey-goosey. You really help guide everybody to where they need to be, and you just come up with storylines after storylines, and it helps me in terms of just prepping for the overall weekend. So I applaud you for just your nonstop effort to give the people at this level their moment, their shine each and every weekend. And I want to start with some that are in Omaha, the ones that are from Omaha, because, you know, these spots that some of these guys secured were just exemptions. I mean, they just happened to figure out on a random weekend, like, hey, this is what I'm playing for. I could be playing in this major event. And here are Carson Shockey, Alex Shockey, the Gucheski family. There's a trio from Omaha, Brandon Crick, et cetera, as we go down the list.
Father and two kids, right?
Gucheski is the father and his two boys. And they're playing together on Thursday, too, to make that moment even more special. But just speak to some of those storylines and how meaningful it is not only for the people of Omaha to see their own play in this event, but also how difficult it is to win that exemption so that they can be here.
There's so many cool layers to it. And I mean, with the Gucheski family, I mean, a dad with multiple kids playing together in a tournament is just so rare. I mean, the only real record we have of it is Jack Nicklaus and his three kids playing at the BMW Charity Pro-Am on the Korn Ferry Tour back in 2003. So like it's so rare. And for Scott, the dad being actually, he's a PGA Tour member this year, but he didn't get into the PGA Tour event because he was alternate for the Wyndham. So he was able to come down and play the Korn Ferry Tour. Whereas if he had
a special word, is that the secret word? Korn Ferry Tour?
Exactly, the secret word. So I think it's one of those things where it's I was in my hotel room and they needed to come in to. You never know what you're gonna get.
Love live radio.
Okay. I just thought you were a pacer when you gave your answers.
No, that was wild. Just here in my hotel room, just kind of didn't expect that to happen. I think they're updating the air conditioners. You know, you never know what you're gonna get here.
Like going to a Seinfeld thing, a tuck or a no tuck on the sheets.
I'm
dang, I the secret word again. Man.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be an untucked person.
Yeah, oh, totally. I mean,
if you're tucked, you are an absolute psychopath.
Sometimes you just like to swish and swash them around, and you know, if they're tucked, you can't really get after it. So
improv, you know, it's only going to be messed up later, anyways. But I think Scott Gucheski with the Wyndham, he was second alternate, and there's this unique rule. Shout out to Ryan French, Monday Q Info, for digging a little bit into this as well and posting. But if you're not in the field by 3 p.m. on Monday, my apologies, I don't know why my buzzing is going off.
You gotta put that on do not disturb, Kev.
And my messages, I thought I had them off, but it's on my computer. So once it was
slapped up, makes sense.
And he didn't get in on Monday, he was able to come down and play the Korn Ferry Tour event, which is just so cool for his sons with Luke and Trevor, and they actually both got in first because Luke won a qualifier, which, I mean, these qualifiers that give out, like, they are technically sponsor invites, but the tournament conducts these qualifiers and other various events that the winner will get into this tournament. And Luke and Trevor, with Luke being in college at Iowa State and Trevor being in high school and having just won the U.S. Junior last month in Michigan, which is amazing, and them being able to get in. Not only for them to both get in, and Scott being excited about that, and then, I mean, one of the first times ever someone not wanting to get into the PGA Tour event, but to be able to play. You know, he's 47. He's kind of battled some injuries. It's kind of what his career is winding down, so he knows there's not really many more opportunities for this. So to be able to play this event with them, and then for them to get paired together on top of it and play the first 2 rounds together is just so magical. So, I mean, between that story, just incredible. And like you mentioned, Brandon Crick, who's, you know, used to work at Indian Creek and having a nice season on the Korn Ferry Tour. And his story is fascinating too, because last year he was 1 spot away from keeping his full card on Korn Ferry Tour at the during the Korn Ferry Tour finals in Columbus, where those spots are all solidified. And he had a real emotional interview, kind of not, you know, don't want to say out of character, but like striking of the emotion he showed, kind of normally an even keeled guy, about what it means. And he's a guy, you know, he's been at it at a pro for a decade or so and been close to the PGA Tour. So for him, he's a guy who's proven he has the game to get there. It's just about timing at the end of the season and how you play in these events. So it'll be cool. And he's at it again, having another good year, got his status back, and he's going to be during the Korn Ferry Tour finals totally having that chance. And then you mentioned Noah Hoffman and the Shockey brothers. So it just goes on and on. But in terms of Nebraska golf, I mean, I'm coming in from the outside, but it seems it's a pretty cool spot in Nebraska golf with some of these up and coming players. And with Trevor winning the U.S. Junior, just absolutely incredible, and these other guys to complement it. So it should be a fun next couple decades. And to bring it full circle, I know Scott Kacheski is pretty proud of that too.
Kev, we're not just farmers up here. That's what we're getting at. That's what we're getting at right now.
As I've told you, my mom's from Omaha, so it's always even cooler to come on.
That's like a mom reference. Where's the ding on that one?
Well, Kev, outside of those that hail from Omaha, there's a lot of cool individuals that are still fighting for, as you said, that tour card, because what are we 2 weeks away from the point to where they can secure that? So, I mean, that time's winding down. You mentioned that for Crick. Is his timing now? Is it going to be postponed again? We'll just have to wait and see.
But I think it's interesting that he worked here. Like, he worked the grounds,
yes,
right? Crick did. So does that give him an advantage?
You would have to think that gives any player some advantage, but you also have players that have played this course before and come in with similar advantages. The hardest thing, and I've already seen it today, I was just doing my rounds, walking the cart path, Kevin, and
because we couldn't get you a cart down here. So.
Yes, if you hit the ball in the rough, you're done for. You're done for here at the club in Indian Creek. You have to punch that ball out to the fairway, and if you're lucky, you'll get it out. If you're lucky. I mean, these guys are trying to find the perfect lie, and you can't find your ball unless you're standing right over it. Thank goodness for the amazing spotters on the course that can help track down play. But for the most part, conditions haven't been ideal for these golfers. As you can hear it, Kevin, the wind is really coming from behind us. I mean, that helps on some holes when you're on the tee box, but now you're either going to find yourself clubbing down, or you're now in that in-between spot where you're like, well, I could hit my 8, but I probably feel more comfortable with my 7. It may come up short, or it may come up long, whatever it may be. Conditions haven't been what they used to be. So with 2 weeks to go and all these other elements in play, the pressure is on for these guys.
And I know Indian Creek is one of the longer courses on tour. It definitely demands different types of shots. And like you said, the rough, if you're off the fairway, you're you get a good lie and you might be able to advance it to the green, but you can't really control your ball as well with the distance. And then you're in some funky chipping areas, and with the pressure, as we talked about, as you just mentioned, with it kind of coming down to the next couple weeks. So it's unique because there used to be Omaha used to be the regular season finale, which I call the greatest week in sports, the week of earning the tour cards, and the top 25 got their cards. The structure is different now, where there's only one season-long race to get your PGA Tour card, so the top 30 at the end of the full season, including the Korn Ferry Tour finals. That being said, there is a tour-bound kind of threshold where guys, if you play super well early in the year, you're going to be safe and can't really be mathematically passed. So 7 or 8 guys have clinched out already, but there's still 22 or 23 spots to be awarded, which once you get into the Korn Ferry Tour finals, the points get ramped up, so there's more volatility. But yeah, this week, Pinnacle Bank is the penultimate event before the Korn Ferry Tour finals. Then next week in New Jersey, and then it goes to those final 4 with the tour cards to be determined in early October. But we're totally at crunch time for the year in terms of the cut line. This is the last kind of standard open event before it starts to be ranked off the points list. So for next week, it's the top 156 who sign up to play, get in, and then from there it's like just top 156 on the points list. Then it goes down to 144, 120, 75. But so Omaha, it's still, although it's not the tour card week, there's still stakes where it's kind of the last event to do something if you have status for the year.
Yeah, Kevin, we speak about that pressure a lot, and any golf event you're gonna carry some form of pressure. Who do you think we should be keeping our eyes on that is kind of like a borderline guy right now? Somebody that is so close to being in that top 25, top 30 range where you feel comfortable going in to those final weekends, but also maybe somebody that's like, I have to really end with a high score here and beyond to even have a chance to secure my card.
It's fascinating. And there's different types of pressure. There's guys who have been on tour before. Like a guy that comes to mind is Kyle Westmoreland, who's 32nd right now on the points list. And he had a good start to the year. He's an Air Force alum, was on tour a couple years ago. And through his first 5-6 events, it looked like he'd be pretty safe, but he struggled through the summer. And I think those guys who thought they were safe and then they've kind of drifted back toward the bubble, that's a unique pressure where you feel like if you don't get your card this year, you've kind of given it away. And that can range from a veteran like Westmoreland to a rookie like Aldrich Pocketer, who's 19 or 20. He's from South Africa. He won in the Bahamas. He won the British Am a couple years ago, to become one of the youngest winners ever of that event. Hits it a mile. So that's a guy who was kind of like, oh, he's going to coast to his card, but he's drifted back. He's 26 on the points list now. So when you get those guys who kind of feel like they're letting it slip away and you still have the chance to salvage it, but there's a lot of guys through the years. I mean, even a couple years ago, Akshay Bhatia, who's now turned into a tour star, he won early in the year and kind of slipped away and was on the bubble in Omaha and ultimately didn't get his card. But those guys who kind of might not make it, those are kind of the most tense ones. And then the more feel-good side is guys who started the year with not too much status. You have a guy like Dalton Ward who has had a bunch of good finishes and limited starts to play his way. He's 29th on the list now. He's not off to a good start today, but he's just, to start the year, you have those guys like him who would be happy to just have a full Korn Ferry Tour card for next year. And now they all of a sudden have a chance to get their PGA Tour card. So you really have the scope of players who are kind of different contexts from the beginning of the year, different spots now. And that's what makes it so fascinating how it's going to play out.
Cam and I were going back and forth about this earlier in the week about the Olympics. And I haven't really been a strong Olympics watcher. I don't want to say I'm fully un-American when I say something like that.
Sure sounds like it, though.
But, it just hasn't been for me. Now, what is for me is those Olympic storylines that carry their way to Omaha. And there is one player here by the name of Chris Ventura who was just out in Paris, and just now he's in Omaha. Yeah. And I'm curious, I'm going to ask him about it after the round, which he prefers, Paris or Omaha. It would shock me if he goes with the latter, but
I'm not sure how windy it is out there, but
it depends on how he shoots today too. How much do you like Chris Ventura?
It's a great storyline, like you mentioned, being also a past winner of this tournament en route to his PGA Tour card a few years ago. He was another guy who was kind of a hot shot out of Oklahoma State, played with Victor Hovland, also from Norway, so they have that close connection and kind of spurred each other together in college and getting to the PGA Tour together. But now Ventura lost his card back on the Korn Ferry Tour, but he's kind of reinvigorated his game a bit, kind of gone back to basics, a little more refreshed of attitude. For a while, he was kind of in that kind of tense period where you feel like you're a PGA Tour player and why are you back on the Korn Ferry Tour? But he's kind of readjusted his mindset, and that served him well this year. He's 22nd on the points list, not safe, but in a good spot to have a couple good weeks and lock it back up. But it's fascinating where you have another guy, Cristobal del Solar from Chile, who qualified for the Olympics, decided to stay on the Korn Ferry Tour and try to finish number one on the points list and get fully exempt on tour next year. Whereas Ventura is like, no, I'm going to go represent my country. This means a lot. So that's something that you can, get into with him too. I'm definitely curious his take on what made him decide to give up a week on the Korn Ferry Tour, and also knowing this week he might be a little jet lagged, but it definitely shows the power of playing for your country and the momentum that Olympic golf does be seeming to get with the kind of, Rahm choking down the stretch to fall off the podium and Scheffler crying afterward. Definitely showed how much it meant. But yeah, with Ventura, it's a fascinating storyline that he did decide to go over there and now trying to come back and secure his card. And I know he's playing in the afternoon today, so it gets a little bit more rest. I'm sure he's, I wouldn't be surprised if he's sleeping until noon to get max time to recharge his mental batteries.
Well, and I wonder if Ventura's story is a little bit like Taylor Montgomery's from a couple of years ago when he chose to play. Was it the Open?
US Open.
Yeah, his dad for him, so he gave up a week, and then that actually cost him because he ended 26th, and he didn't end up getting his card. Now, Montgomery, of course, doing very well on the PGA Tour right now, but still, I wonder if there's any of that, emotional pull for like Ventura, like you said, to go play for his country, just like it was for Montgomery to play in a spot where he could be next to his dad, right? So it's cool to have those type of stories and to really hear what propels people, like what gets people to do that exact thing. And you get those connections all the time here at the KFT, and here at the Pinnacle Bank Championship, you will not find somebody to latch onto. Like there's a story that you're like, I'm riding with this guy. I don't know anything about golf, but I'm riding with this guy just because he comes from his background is just absolutely amazing. And there's two guys that I want to touch on here now.
Yeah.
Because one is an absolute fan favorite. And I didn't say that, but Kevin Prise said that.
That's what things are being said about.
His name is Harry Higgs. Yeah. And I really need to know, Kevin, why he's a fan favorite.
So there is a couple different reasons. So first of all, coming up through the ranks, just a great storyteller, great with fans, always like jovial and doesn't take himself too seriously. And he's kind of got the look about him, bigger guy, sunglasses, just the way he kind of moves around. He has this commanding presence. People joke that he'd be like the most likely to run for president of anyone out on the PGA Tour. He's just got that, for better or worse these days, I guess. But no, he's I think he got to the tour and then he not only had that presence about him, he had this moment at Phoenix where he made a putt and took his shirt off and he's like wrapping up the crowd. And that's just like kind of the moment in time that
a full machine on it. Like he's on the machine.
Like it was electric. And from there kind of got a Dude Wipe sponsorship, just has all this like these little elements to him that he's fun on Twitter, like doesn't take himself too seriously, good in interviews. So kind of just that whole demeanor kind of made him someone, and his nickname, the Big Rig, the other players dubbed it. Fans enjoyed too.
I love it.
Big Rig. And then it's interesting when a guy like that loses their card and falls back to the Korn Ferry Tour, and a guy who kind of it seemed like trajectory-wise he was on the way up and was going to be kind of a steady 20-year presence on the PGA Tour, and he still might be able to. He still has a career runway in front of him, but back on the Korn Ferry Tour this year, and he's kind of reinvented himself again, won back-to-back tournaments earlier in the year, and gave a very profound speech after winning in Knoxville. It was after Grayson Murray tragically passed away, who was a longtime touring Korn Ferry Tour player, and gave the speech about being nice to each other and really the important things in life of human connection. And it was like a nice, very sweet moment of him after he won to kind of make sure he didn't want to make it about himself at all. And that's the kind of stuff too, like the goofy side and the endearing, like just heart of gold type of side. So those elements make Harry Higgs someone who's fascinating to follow. And with him, he's secured his card. He's well on his way. He's safely inside the top 30 and now trying to go for that number one spot, which makes you fully exempt and gets you into the U.S. Open and gets you into the Players. So definitely number one on the Korn Ferry Tour is the spot that the guys who have their cards secured are still gunning for and still have that motivation to keep playing to try to get to number one, because it does set up your year for next year. And also, if you win 3 tournaments, you get automatically promoted to be able to play the PGA Tour for the rest of the year.
Absolutely.
Someone who, if he wins, he gets that 3rd win, and he's 200 today. I see he's made a couple bogeys just on the last couple holes, but having a good start.
I'll tell you, I am after that, I am on board with Harry Higgs.
I sold you.
It's the getting back to it.
Don't think I won't be doing his interview with my shirt off.
You should. You should totally do that.
Don't think, Kev.
But also in my history on this show, picking the winner is not necessarily my strong suit. So I don't want to pick him, but I want to pick. I think I like him. I think I like him a lot. So I'm going to go with Harry Higgs. I'm going to go find him and just
lock it in.
We'll just chug a beer or something.
It's too bad that there aren't live odds that Cam can put some actual money down on Harry Higgs, because I would love to see.
Only.
I'd love to see what his plus money is right now. Kev, I know I got to let you go, but hey, thanks so much for taking the time this morning, and best of luck as you navigate the stormy skies out there in North Carolina, and just enjoy the events that you continue to cover and continue the great work that you do.
As I always say, look out for Debbie.
Absolutely. We'll keep Debbie hopefully at arm's length. Got the rain jacket on now.
I always do.
Exactly. Kev, really appreciate it, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys. Cheers.
We'll be in touch. Cheers. Amen. I love how he comes up with the total hotel cup.
Yeah.
Just to give us a nice little cheers there. So that's Kevin Prise. And like I said, he's unbelievable. He knows the ins and outs of everything. Yeah. And there's one thing that we didn't get to yet, and I'm happy that we saved it until now, Cam, because you know what's really popular nowadays is watching others play golf online. Okay. So you have like guys
like bring up the time that we played out here. So I'm glad you didn't bring that up.
Well, that's next.
Okay,
but we get to watch guys like Bob Does Sports. You get to watch the good guys. Right. Like, these are very popular channels. And now Bryson DeChambeau is even doing something. Like, he golfed with Donald Trump the other day.
Oh, nice.
And so
did he win?
I think they tried to break 50 together. And I don't remember, because by the time they got to like the 15th hole, Ashley had me start like replacing door hinges. And then all of a sudden
lost track.
The show was over. And I'm like, I guess I'll never know. Like, one of those things.
Yeah.
But, YouTube has made people super popular and made the sport really popular. And it's really fun to kind of follow along with guys, because one, they're entertaining, and two, some guys can hit shots that you just can't hit. It's why you watch PGA Tour events.
It's
why you come.
Guy. I think he sounds like a really cool cat. I'd hang out with him.
It's why you come to an event like this here at Indian Creek. And, the best thing too, because you mentioned Harry Higgs, like, those are the guys people latch onto. And because he is somebody that doesn't take himself very seriously, it's also what makes him most entertaining at the end.
Likable.
He would be somebody that probably starts a YouTube channel at some point, and people will follow along. But here's what I'm getting at. There's somebody at the event. His name is Carl Lips. Okay?
Lips.
He comes from Australia. Here's his story.
Okay.
He didn't come from much.
Well, it's Australia. There's not a lot down there.
The support from YouTube helped propel him to where he is today. Really? So a guy that is just like, well, like, I'm going to try to write my own story, post some stuff on YouTube, post him playing.
Australian accent. I guess I'll be on my own
well, mate, I guess I post. He won last week. Okay.
Nice.
Just his fourth start after graduating Stanford.
Oh, like that's the first accomplishment, Stanford, and then now he's doing this. Yeah.
But he came from YouTube. Like, the only reason he's had his story from Australia to Stanford to now is because of YouTube, and it's the power of social media. Yeah. And I think that is so interesting. So many people try to do it. Only a few people can do it well. And he was somebody that got recognized because he just put himself out there. A lot of people don't want to do that.
What you got to do, sometimes.
It's like, I don't really want to get, like, the negative comments, or I don't want to be judged for X, Y, and Z reason, or I don't want people to be like, oh my gosh, here I am again boasting about what I can do and you can't do. Some people are worried about any sort of reaction.
That fine line between, bragging and backing it up, that whole thing.
But Carl is here today because of YouTube. I just think that's another really cool story that you can follow along with. Everybody wants to be that guy.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to quit their day job, go play golf every single day, and make tons of money like Bob Does Sports, who I believe Barstool tried to buy them for like I don't know if it was 3 million or 300 million, something like that. And Bob said, yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, so just coming from nothing and just getting an offer for 3 million. It's just, hey, he really did it, you know.
So lots of cool guys to follow along with. We hit on the Omaha guys early. Noah Hoffman, Brandon Crick. You got the Gucheski family, which is
keep it local.
which is which is a story unlike any other. Kevin Prise called it rare. I mean, rare is an understatement when the only other family on record is the Nicklaus family.
Right.
One of the best golfers to ever play.
How long ago was
on the
that
tour.
when that happened?
It was a decent while ago.
Like 20 years probably or so.
Well, and here's the thing I don't factually know, because it's like, okay, well, the Corn
put you on
Ferry,
the spot there. My bad.
like Jack Nicklaus had to have been retired, right? So he comes over to the Corn Ferry Tour. So when did Jack Nicklaus retire? In like the 80s?
Oh, okay.
Like, but then you have to think it's his kids. So it's his kids playing. So then it's probably like early 2000s.
Yeah, late 90s, early 2000s.
So that's probably the timeline that we're kind of looking at. And so
20 years. Let's just call it 20 years.
That story in itself is just, I mean, it's wild.
That is wild.
Like, and then getting paired up together, like the odds of something like that is crazy.
Oh, they're even walking around together. Also, know what you mean?
Yeah, so those three guys that are walking up to 18 is the Gucheski family.
Wow. And they get to hang out together.
And I wonder who's caddying. Like, I really wonder who's caddying. Is it family members? Because now it's a whole family affair. And you really just follow the group.
It's like a random uncle or something. Like, it's still a family affair.
So look across the way past 18, you can see a group of fans.
A whole bunch of
so we're on hole 17 right now. And for those of you at home, I'll try to describe it for you.
It's the party green if you want to come out and hang out.
You go past 18, you're probably on like hole... Is that 9? I think that's 9 over there. It wouldn't shock me if that's the entire Gucheski family watching the family play. That wouldn't shock me. There's like 18 people over there.
The passenger vans out. And they brought the whole Gucheski
I think that's
family.
it.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
I really think that's that's got to be their fan.
Let's go get an interview. Let's just go talk.
Well, it will. At the end of the round, I will get the interview, and I will bring up that the only other family on record to play together at the Corn Ferry Tour is the Jack Nicklaus family. So what?
At least a quarter century ago.
What a Hall of Fame to be put up with.
That's great. in the same sentence.
They're in the same conversation with the Jack Nicklaus family, which is really cool. And then you have like the story of Ventura, somebody that went to the Olympics, chose to take a week off. And, you know, Cam, for somebody that doesn't follow a lot of golf, that matters a ton in terms of points. Like here, you're trying to accumulate points so that you can rise the rankings, and you get more points by finishing better in tournaments. So by giving something like that up, you're basically saying, I'm okay if 4 guys pass me today.
Right.
Or this weekend, just so that I can go play. And if you're on the bubble, if you're on the border of either
you might as well.
staying, no, but what I'm saying is if you're either on the border of staying in tour card contention or missing it, that's a hard decision to make to go to the Olympics.
Truth. Yeah.
And so, did he say he was 22nd? I think Ventura is 22nd on the points list.
Yeah.
So we're looking at something where, I mean, he's probably on the outskirts of the bubble, more in the money than he is out, but still. Like he put himself in a spot to where it was, I'm gambling. I'm going to go play for my country. I'm going to go wear my colors and I'm going to do that. And then it's easy to sit at home and say, I would do that.
Right.
I would easily go play in the Olympics. I would go to Paris. I would go play. But think about if that decision cost you like it did Taylor Montgomery, and then you were forced to play another year on the Corn Ferry Tour before you got your tour card. It's not like you play 3 more weeks and then you get your tour card and it's fine. You have to go another 365 in order to then obtain that tour card.
Right. I'm sure he's got time, but I mean, in that situation, you know, going to the Olympics, doing that thing, I think that kind of earns you a little bit more fans, a little more respect from the fans, if nothing else, because you're willing to do that. Is that kind of
yes, but
because when you come back,
the dream has always been PGA.
You got to grind harder. Got to grind harder to get back to it. You know?
Maybe like if you are so close to that would be one of the hardest decisions to make as an individual,
for sure,
because you're basically saying, I'm giving this up. I don't know how much Olympians make,
and I've been faced with a couple of those in my life, not a golf situation, but I've been faced with a couple of those. Yeah. You kind of just got to weigh the pros and cons.
Well, and you just basically have to go with your gut. And if his gut said play him for the national team, it's playing for the national team. But again, you have to physically say, I'm cool with not making like $500K next year.
Right.
like, or $1 million or whatever, because you win one event.
Well, I'm sure he's got a little bit in the bank. He's probably cool, just kind of hang out for a little bit.
Well, kind of, because
eat some ramen noodles for a couple months, you'll be good.
So, for an event like this, these golfers that come into town stay like with families. Like, it's not like they're posted up in hotels.
They're like foreign exchange students.
Yeah, it's like you could sign up for player housing, which is something that I always wanted to do when I was here.
I have an extra room in my house.
So you could have housed a guy for player housing. Like, so these guys aren't making a ton of money.
Okay.
And that's what I'm kind of getting at with what a tough call to make.
Right.
Like, you probably don't always have the chance to play in the Olympics.
Yeah, then you're just kind of like a touring musician. Just like, I'm going out there and we'll see who picks me up, kind of a thing. Wow.
And then you have a guy like,
I didn't realize,
like Cristobal toward the top of the points list, who chose not to go because he's trying to finish number one.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have that tug of war match of what to do, what not to do, what's right, what's wrong. And then, of course, Harry Higgs.
But all those storylines are here
right now. They are taking place at the Pinnacle Bank Championship here at the club in Indian Creek.
That is great.
Everybody has a great story.
Yeah.
You get these guys from all across the country, all across the world. They have a great story. And that's why I always tell people, especially here in town, to make your way to the event. It may not seem glamorous because it's not the PGA Tour. It really, and these guys will tell you the same thing, but that doesn't mean it's any less exciting.
Right.
And that you can't make the most of your time here seeing the next ones. Guess who also played on the Korn Ferry Tour at one point? Somebody by the name of Scotty Scheffler.
Never heard of her.
Number one in the world. Number one in the world. Not only has Scotty Scheffler won the Masters twice, not only did he come back and win the Olympics just last week, he also went to jail in between those times. You don't normally see a story like that.
Yeah.
Scotty Scheffler, you get to see the best of the best, and he started here. So imagine you're watching the next world number one by just coming to Omaha. And he got cut when he was here. He only played 2 days and got cut. So there you have it.
That was a mistake.
What a fun event this is. I'm super excited to get to talk to these guys more closely. You can follow along with all of the coverage on the Hurrdat Sports channels, whether that's YouTube, whether that's your favorite social media app. We're everywhere. Give us a follow, give us a like.
All over the grounds out here. We're capturing all kinds of great stuff. So,
and it's really funny because this event started with 4 people. It was like the College World Series just 3 years ago. And now Hurrdat Sports has the media room named after them, Hole 17 named after them, and a whole portion of the media room where like 17 to 20 backpacks on. Yeah. It is crazy. Come say hi. It's hard to
walk through, but you can get through there.
Come say hi. We're having a lot of fun. It is the Korn Ferry Tour. It is the Pinnacle Bank Championship, and it is in your hometown for those of you watching in Omaha. That's another episode of Rogers Rules. Continue to follow along with all these stories like we said. For Cam, I'm Andrew. We will see you next week.